Old. Now, Old is written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan and basically follows the story of this group of about 10 to 15 people who all go to this holiday resort and are selected, invited to go to this private beach. And basically when they get to this private beach, a lot of really weird things start happening. Everyone starts rapidly growing up, a body randomly washes up on the shore, and at the same time though, even weirder things start happening. And then, in a very M. Night Shyamalan way, everything gets explained as to what's been going on this beach. And that's basically the plot of Old. And honestly, I was surprised by how much this film actually worked to me. I actually really liked it. And that's not to say the film doesn't feel like an incomplete jigsaw puzzle in some aspects, which I'm going to go into a bit later in this video. Because the film in some aspects does feel like it's missing something, but overall, I actually kind of enjoyed it. But before I get into why I actually enjoyed this film, first of all, I'm going to give my thoughts on M. Night Shyamalan as a whole, and some other context surrounding this film. So first, let's talk about M. Night Shyamalan as a whole. I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of M. Night Shyamalan, but I must admit as well, I actually haven't seen much of his films. I haven't seen The Sixth Sense, I haven't seen Signs, and I also haven't seen The Happening as well, which is also meant to be one of his worst films. But I have seen of M. Night Shyamalan is Unbreakable, Split, and Glass. And I'm happy to report, I'm a huge fan of all three of those films. Even Glass, which is the final film in, the Unbreakable trilogy, even Glass, I was quite a big fan of. I'm not gonna lie, I mean, that film came out in 2019 now, and it got quite a negative response. But the thing is though, I quite like Glass, I must admit. But at the same time though, I also quite like Split. But the best film in the Unbreakable trilogy is Unbreakable itself. I'm a huge fan of Unbreakable. I just think it's an absolutely brilliant film. But the thing is though, those are the only three M. Night Shyamalan films I've watched. So going into this film, I didn't really know what to expect. I was interested in it because M. Night Shyamalan, but I know he can be hit and miss. And at the same time though, I was also hearing about how this film was made. From what I've heard, and I might be wrong here I should say, but from what I've heard, this film was actually shot during the pandemic. And I'm always impressed with films shot during the pandemic because it's quite a difficult thing to do. And at the same time though, where they were shooting this film in the Dominican Republic, I might pronounce that wrong by the way, where they were shooting this film, there's actually a storm going on at the time. So, considering all that, I'm actually impressed by how well the film is shot, and the fact that this film did not feel like a film made during the pandemic. That was one of my worries going into the film. Was it going to feel like a film made during the pandemic? And actually, it doesn't. And that's actually one of the reasons I like this film so much. Honestly, I think my main reason why I like this film so much is the execution over the story. I don't actually think the ideas in this film are that good. Like, when you find the explanation of why these people are rapidly growing up on this beach, I literally had a verbal eye roll in the cinema because I didn't actually think it was that good. But what made the film work for me was the execution and the emotional scenes. Like when you see these people growing up, when you see the characters in the film growing up, and the effects it has on them. And I just thought that was actually really good in the film. And even so the film does have some pacing issues, which we're going to get into a bit later in this review, I still like the film's execution because that's where I felt the emotion. That's where I felt like I was immersed in the film. And that's why I think it works overall, because of those emotional scenes where you see those characters, whether they're falling apart, whether they're dying, or whether they're just growing up and they don't fully realise it. That's where I thought the film worked. And at the same time though, I thought the film was beautifully shot. I know a few reviewers have actually complained about the cinematography in the film. They said it was a bit too jittery and moving about too much. Personally, I never felt that. I actually thought the film was really well shot and beautiful to watch, by the way. I love the look of this beach. I love the look of the resort that you see at the start of the film. I loved watching this film. Honestly, from the first moment of the film, I just was glued to the screen just because of the way it was shot. I just thought it was beautifully shot. And at the same time though, I think all the performances are fantastic. And another thing to do with the film which I really liked was the twist. Now, M. Night Shyamalan is known for his twists in films. Obviously you get The Sixth Sense and everything. Everyone knows the famous twist in that film. I haven't even seen The Sixth Sense, and I know the famous twist from that film. But the thing is though, everyone knows M. Night Shyamalan for his twists. And boy oh boy, does this film have a lot of twists. But the thing is though, all the twists in this film kind of worked for me. It kept me intrigued in the plot and interested in what was going on. Like, most of the film takes place on this one beach, in one location. And the thing is though, it keeps you interested in what's going on, and I never felt bored during this film. And that's a big merit of it, honestly, because, like I said, this film mostly takes place on one location. I mean, you have the start and you have the end, which you kind of go back to the resort, but for the most part, about 3/4 of the film takes place on one location, so that's hard to do, to keep a viewer interested in the film when it's all taking place on one location. But the thing is though, somehow, through M. Night Shyamalan's, crazy twists, as stupid as they were, the execution kept me interested in what was going on this beach, that I didn't mind everything so much. Like I said, I never felt bored in this film. In fact, I constantly felt intrigued and constantly felt interested in what was going on with these characters because of the twist in the film and the way M. Night Shyamalan wrote these scenes. And even so, some of the execution isn't the best in some scenes. When the execution is there and you get those big emotional moments, that's when the film works for me. And so, honestly, I really liked it. But that's not to say it doesn't have its issues overall. Like I've titled this video, this film does feel like a bit like an incomplete puzzle in some aspects. And what I mean there is I wish M. Night Shyamalan, I don't know, lent into some scenes more, just settled into some scenes which could have been more emotional than they actually were. Like there's one scene in particular, which I'm not going to give too much away here, but there's not one scene in particular where one of the characters we see as a kid at the start of the film obviously grows up throughout the film and then ends up giving birth at one stage, and it's this really emotional moment, but it's kind of skimmed over. It's like, oh, we're going to give birth, oh, then we're going to do this now. And it's almost like M. Night Shyamalan wrote the ideas on a piece of paper what he wants to do on this film, and then when he got down to it, he just kind of skimped over some ideas because he wanted to get on to the next idea, what could happen on this beach. And even so, I did quite like that scene in the film. I thought it was actually quite an interesting idea. It was quite rough. I was like, oh, I didn't expect the film to go there, but I actually kind of like that it has. Even so, I actually kind of liked an idea. I wish we settled into that scene more when we saw that character giving birth and saw these big emotional things happen to her. Like, I'm not going too much away there, but it's quite emotional at that moment, but we just don't settle into it enough that I can't fully feel the emotion. There's quite a lot of emotion towards the end of the film, which works really well. That's the only scene though which I felt the emotion could have been a bit better overall, I must admit. And I do think M. Night Shyamalan has some pacing issues in this film. I do think some parts move too quickly and some parts move a bit too slowly as well. And at the same time though, some of the dialogue in this film is actually pretty bad, I'm not gonna lie. M. Night Shyamalan, he provides good twists and everything, but the thing is though, some of his dialogue in this film really isn't that great. Honestly, there's a conversation between the main married couple that we follow for most of the film, to be honest. Early on when they get on the private beach at one stage, basically the husband says to the wife, oh, I've got to tell you something. Then the wife says to him like, oh, I've got to tell you something too. And then the husband's like, ah, but it can wait till later. Then the wife's like, oh yeah, mine can wait till later as well. That's quite literally a conversation in the film. And at the same time, though, when you see all the kids rapidly growing up, you have Rufus Sewell's character, who's meant to be this doctor, who's meant to be this old doctor, by the way. You see him go to the kids and like, they've definitely grown up. He's just like, no kidding, look at them. They've got even taller, the actors have changed. No wonder the kids are growing up. And it's just like, it's almost like a part of the film, M. Night Shyamalan is spoon-feeding you the information. Like, in case you didn't get it, this is what's happening. And that's one of my problems with the ending of this film. I like the ending. I like how the film played out in the end. But honestly, the ending was just like, if you didn't get it all, this is what happened. This is what happened. It's honestly like, here's a spoon and it going into your mouth. For the audience, honestly, I was kind of sitting there thinking, this ending could be shorter and it could be more mysterious as well. Like, I do think M. Night Shyamalan missed out on a bit of a trick at the end, having something very mysterious happen. Like, one of the characters we thought we were going to see again ends up popping up or something like that. And, you know, not to give too much away, he didn't really go there. But the thing is, though, the end of the film just felt like, you know, M. Night Shyamalan was spoon-feeding the information to his audience. Like, in case you didn't get what was going on, this is what's going on. You know, we're going to have all these explanations for these characters, which explains what's going on in case you didn't get it before. And it just feel like, you're missing out a bit there. Just, you know, cut down your dialogue a bit, make your dialogue more precise and more to the point, and think about what you're writing. His twists are good, his ideas are there in parts, but the dialogue is not the best. I just feel like at some stages, M. Night Shyamalan is quite literally there, spoon-feeding the information to his audience in case you didn't get what was going on. And at the same time though, on the topic of M. Night Shyamalan, we've been talking about him a lot in this review, but on the topic of M. Night Shyamalan, he's in this film quite a bit. I mean, actually, no, he's in this film more than I thought he was going to be. Like, M. Night Shyamalan makes a lot of cameos in his films, like Quentin Tarantino does in his films as well. And that's fine. I don't mind directors making a cameo in the film. Sometimes it's kind of nice. I'm like, oh, that's the guy who made the film. And you see M. Night Shyamalan as the bus driver driving this group of people to the private beach on the film. You just think, oh, that's quite nice. M. Night Shyamalan's there. And then, not to give too much away, he pops up again later in the film. And then he becomes somewhat of a key character, not to give too much away there again. But I'm trying to wave away from spoilers, but I am giving a little bits away here. So I do apologise if you are thinking about watching this film. I am giving it a little bit away. But the thing is though, M. Night Shyamalan pops up again later in the film, and then he becomes quite like a bit like a key character. And you do start to think, why? Why has he written that part for himself? Why couldn't another actor play that part? Because honestly, whenever M. Night Shyamalan was on screen, I can never get away from the fact I was watching M. Night Shyamalan, and it was like, oh god, it's like when Quentin Tarantino pops up in Django Unchained towards the end of that film, and he's doing that really weird Australian accent. He's having that scene with Jamie Foxx and everything. And Django Unchained probably is my favourite Quentin Tarantino film, but the thing is though, when Quentin Tarantino pops up in Django Unchained, it takes me out of the film and just think, why are you here doing a crap Australian accent? And honestly, honestly, I mean, M. Night Shyamalan's not doing an Australian accent in this film, but when he popped up in the film, and when he kept popping up, I was a bit like, I can't take the film seriously while you're there, because it's taken me out of the film, because I know you're the director, and I'm not entirely sure what you're doing there. Why couldn't that part just be played by a different actor? And I just think that's a problem in the film as well. And honestly, as a whole, the film just feels like it's missing something to take my liking of it to another level. I do actually quite like this film, but I want to like it more than I do, and I think there is where it feels like an incomplete jigsaw puzzle, because the parts of the film you want to settle into more, and there's parts of the film that you just, I don't know, you want to see more what happens, and you don't always get to. And I think M. Night Shyamalan's writing kind of restricts you from seeing the full picture, if you get what I mean. You might understand what I mean when you see the film there. But nevertheless, I still quite liked the film, and I was surprised by how much I actually enjoyed it. I went into the film with very low expectations, because I know M. Night Shyamalan can be hit and miss, and actually, I'm going to admit, I think it's one of his hits. I like this film for the most part. I think it works, I think it's really well shot, I think the execution is there when it needs to be, and at the same time though, I liked the performances quite a lot, and I liked the twists that kept on happening throughout the film, because, you know, like I said before, about 3/4 of the film takes place on one location, on this private beach, this quote-unquote private beach. But anyway, yeah, most of the film takes place on one location, and, you know, with the classic M. Night Shyamalan twist in there, you keep intrigued into what's going on in the film, and that's where it works for me. It's not for everyone, and that's fine. Obviously, the film's actually getting quite mixed reviews at the moment, which actually quite surprised me, I'm not going to lie. I thought the general consensus would be this film would be received, you know, mostly positively, but at the same time, though, I enjoyed it for what it was. I thought it was good, and, you know, maybe not one of the best ones of the year, but saying that, though, I thought it was interesting whilst it was on, and I'll definitely watch it again. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that M. Night Shyamalan's old. I'm going to say that it's an 8 out of 10. Honestly, I enjoyed this film for the most part. Like I said before, I don't think it's going to be one of the best films of the year come the end of the year. But saying that though, it filled my Friday afternoon up quite nicely, I must admit. I enjoyed watching it. I really like the twists, even so the ideas weren't always there. I like the execution of those ideas, and I like the emotional scenes when they're settled into. There's a couple of emotional scenes in the film which I wish they settled into a bit more, and parts of the film just feel like a bit of an incomplete jigsaw puzzle. But overall, the jigsaw puzzle is actually quite fun to do, and it's quite fun to watch, and honestly, that's where the film kind of works for me as a whole. I enjoyed the film for what it was. In the end, it's an M. Night Shyamalan film. If you watched one before, you'll probably know what you're going in for with this film. I'd probably say it's the second best M. Night Shyamalan film I've seen, but bear in mind, I've only seen Unbreakable, Splitting Glass as well. But saying that though, I am actually kind of interested to go watch more M. Night Shyamalan films after this now, because of how much this film actually kind of worked to me. It worked to me and keep me interested in what was going on in this single location for most of the film, and that is why it impressed me. And so, all in all, I'm going to say that M. Night Shyamalan's old is an 8 out of 10 from me. Anyway guys, what do you think of Old? Please do comment down below and know your thoughts in the comment section below. Anyway guys, thank you as always for watching, and if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like, subscribe on the video, and look forward to many more both film and TV reviews come very soon on this channel. See you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye!